What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Recher Reacts. I'm your host, Jay Recher. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Monday night, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. Plenty to get into today. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms at Jay Recher. And if you're joining us for the first time here on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit that notifications bell so you can find out every single time we go live. We'll talk about the Buccaneers trimming their roster to 53. The deadline was tomorrow, but they took care of business tonight, wiped their hands clean. They're ready to move on. So we're going to look at how that whole thing came about here in the last couple hours. Randy Arozarena's impact on the Tampa Bay Rays. And no, we're not just talking about what he did tonight because he's already homered. A 3-run ding-dong in the third inning off of Ryan Pepio. And you had to know that that was going to happen tonight, right? Just Randy's made for these type of moments. But we're going to talk about the impact that Randy Arozarena has had on the Tampa Bay Rays and the fan base and what it means historically as well. And then a Monday Night Raw recap, a really strong show as we inch closer to the Bash in Berlin this weekend. Cannot wait for that. It is going to be one heck of a ride there in Berlin. There's some big time matchups, and the go home show was on point. That is for sure. All right, but before we get to race, before we get to WWE, let's talk about the big news of the afternoon and the early evening, and that is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have trimmed down their roster to 53. They had to get from 90 to 53, and they did just that. Surprises? I think the big surprise to me is that they kept 4 tight ends and keeping Kokeeft. We knew they were keeping Kate Otten and Payne Durham, but Kokeeft and also keeping a guy like Devin Culp, their late round pick. It shows that they really have a lot of faith in this young kid. And for a guy like Devin Culp, he stood out to me. That's a big dude. He's got some good hands, made some really, really nice catches. But he's got some speed too. So you wonder um, what kind of impact that he's going to have this year. We don't know. But you look at some of the breakdowns of the positions. And the first thing that jumps out to me is that the Buccaneers kept 5 receivers and 4 tight ends. We knew the 4 wide receivers. We knew Mike Evans was going to stay. We knew Chris Godwin. We knew Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer. And there was a growing sentiment over the last couple of weeks that Cam Johnson was going to be that fifth guy. And with Rakim Jarrett going on IR and designated to return, we were wondering, what does that mean for guys like Cody Thompson? What does that mean for guys like Ryan Miller, who both had a pretty good preseason? And shout out to Dan Lucas from WFLA letting us know that Cody Thompson actually led the preseason for the most receptions. So thought it was going to be 6. And with the amount of 3 wide receiver sets that Liam Cohen likes to run with his offense, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be 6 wide receivers, but no, it was only 5 wide receivers and 4 tight ends. Let's go through the roster real quick and let's talk about all 53 guys. Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, 2 quarterbacks. John Wolford, one of the cuts. I don't know if that's much of a surprise. Kyle Trask did himself, justice, performing pretty darn well the last couple of games there in the preseason. 3 running backs: Rashad White, Bucky Irving, and Sean Tucker. No Chase Edmonds this year. He's going to be in the IR. He's going to miss the season, unfortunately, for the veteran running back. Mention the wide receivers and the tight ends. Offensive linemen: Tristan Wirfs, Ben Bredesen, Graham Barton, Cody Malk, Luke Gedeke. Those are your starters. Then you'll have 4 guys on the bench: Robert Hainsey, Justin School, Brandon Walton, and Elijah Klein. No real surprises there. Great to see Elijah Klein, one of the Buccaneers draft picks, making it, and some great stats. And one and only Rick Stroud pointed this out earlier, and I definitely want to get to that. I want to show you this stat from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and a guy like Jason Light and the job that he and the staff have done over there. You want to talk about building through the draft? Wait till you hear this statistic and wait till you hear multiple statistics, and it just lauds the job that those gentlemen have, or ladies and gentlemen, have done, courtesy of our guy Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times. Defensively, defensive line: Davita Vea, Kalijah Cansey, Logan Hall, Greg Gaines, and the veteran Will Golston, and Ernest Brown. We mentioned that on Jay and Zach today, that he was going to be the guy after C.J. Brewer was waived. Ernest Brown was going to get that opportunity, so good for him. Outside linebackers, no surprise there. 6 of them: Yaya Diaby, JTS, Chris Brazel, Anthony Nelson, Marquise Watson, Jose Ramirez. Your four linebackers interior, Levante David, KJ Britt, Servassier Dennis, and JJ Russell. And then the secondary, kind of wondering, we knew who the kind of the top guys were: Jamel Dean, Zion McCollum, Bryce Hall coming over from the Jets, Josh Hayes, who helps out not just as an extra corner, but also on special teams, Tyreek Funderburg, who was dealing with some injuries, but very, very respected among the Bucks coaching staff. Tyke Smith, Chris Isian, and Tavier Thomas, the veteran from the Houston Texans, makes the 53. And then Antoine Winfield, Jordan Whitehead, and Kayvon Merriweather. We mentioned how no Zach Triner. So Evan Deckers is the long snapper with Chase McLaughlin and Jake Camarda rounding out the 53. So no real big um, like cuts. I think the only big thing really was the wide receivers keeping five instead of six. And there's one thing that we pointed out on Jay and Zach a couple of weeks ago. And when you have a guy like Liam Cohen, who obviously was there at Kentucky, but a lot of people keep harkening back to his days with the LA Rams. People try, as training camp goes along and as the preseason goes along, they try to figure out, all right, what's the roster going to look like, and what's this game plan going to look like? What is their offense going to look like as a whole? And you can say, all right, well, this is a Sean McVay type offense, and this is what he usually does, and Cooper Kupp does this, and Tyler Higbee did this, and blah 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 blah. But one thing that I brought up that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, I brought this up a couple weeks ago on the show as well. What about Liam Cohen's wrinkle to the Sean McVay, the quote unquote Sean McVay offense? What does Liam Cohen bring to the table that maybe is different than what Sean McVay has shown in LA? Because you can be a guy that comes from a coaching tree. You can come from the Shanahan tree or the McVay tree. Those are the two most popular coaching trees, especially offensively, here in the last 4 or 5 years in the National Football League. But that doesn't mean that you have to follow every single thing to the letter that Sean McVay does in his offense. And one thing I noticed, and I mentioned this to Greg Allman as we were watching training camp a couple weeks ago, man, he sure does like to get his tight ends involved a lot. Whether it's Otten, whether it's Payne Durham, whether it's Kokeeft helping out, obviously he's going to be more of the blocking tight end, or a guy like Devin Culp. One of the last days in training camp, he went up one-handed, made a nice grab, and took off. He's shown some incredible speed. Why does it have to necessarily be a bunch of 3 and 4, 5 wide receiver sets? It doesn't. It doesn't. And if we've learned anything, I think through the way that this 53-man roster was constructed, is that I think the tight ends are going to be a lot more involved in this offense than what a lot of people thought going into the season. We're going to keep 6 wide receivers. No, only kept 5. And when you have guys that are performing at a high level and that are just matchup nightmares, I think the tight ends are going to take a huge step forward in this offense. I spoke to Kate Otten earlier in training camp, and of course, his first goal, was team wise when I asked for personal goals. And he said, yeah, well, my first goal is to help this team win a Super Bowl. But he also mentioned that he wants to make a Pro Bowl. And if you're going to have a high flying offense like Liam Cohen and you're going to run these plays, and we see it in training camp, and we've seen it a couple times here in the preseason where guys are just wide freaking open. That's what we wanted to see, right? One of the things that we see, even though Cooper Kupp has been fantastic for the Rams last couple of years, how does it seem like that guy is always wide the hell open? And I know he's a fantastic route runner, but a lot, some of that has to do with play calling as well. So to get the tight ends open in space and to utilize the strengths that they have, I think that's going to be a focus for this very unique Liam Cohen offense. They're going to lean heavily on the run. We're going to see a multitude of players touching the rock this year. It's not just going to be the wideouts. It's going to be, I think they're going to establish that run. And you see the offensive line, they seem to have a better idea of what's going on. I thoroughly enjoy what I've seen so far. And the way that this roster has been constructed with these 53 guys, maybe to some people that's a surprise, but just looking into it more and more and just trusting what you see, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And I can't wait to talk about this tomorrow at noon with Zach, and also on Wednesday when Greg Allman joins us, to see if they share that same sentiment about the tight ends. Very, very exciting. And then also, I mentioned this, and Rick Stroud does such a great job for the Tampa Bay Times. If you haven't purchased his new book with longtime assistant coach in the National Football League, Tom Moore, I suggest you do so. But I want to share with you guys something that I came across, and Rick put this out there. And here we go. Right now, you can see it there on the screen. So Rick tweets out earlier today, the Bucks have already reached the 53-man player limit and all their 2024 draft picks have made it. And this is at 8:38. So deadline's tomorrow. Buccaneers took care of business tonight. In fact, 22 of the 23 players they've drafted over the past 3 years are on the team, and 26 of 30 selected over the last 4 years made it. All starters except Baker Mayfield and Ben Bredeson were drafted by the Buccaneers. Incredible. Job well done by Rick Stroud for putting that out there, but also the job by Jason Light and his front office and the way that they've been able to bring talent in here and flip one of, if not the oldest roster in the National Football League to one of the youngest. I mean, I think I read also that there's only 3 guys over 30, and it's Will Golston, Mike Evans, and Levante David. That's how you build a winning team. And there's going to be other teams that are going to be sexier picks. When you look at San Francisco and you look at Dallas, everybody thinks that Philadelphia is going to, make a resurgence. And just keep an eye on the Buccaneers this year. And if you're a Bucks fan, you're probably going to do that anyway. I get it. But the Bucks are doing this thing the right way. They really are. They're building through the draft, and that's what good teams do. Yeah, you can go out there and you can get your finishing pieces. Look at San Francisco. You can go out there and you can acquire a Christian McCaffrey. You can go out and get a Trent Williams. But just think about the guys that they drafted. Think about the Ayuks and the Debo Samuels and guys like Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. Like, building through the draft, that is the way to do it. That's how you sustain success. And that shows me that the Bucks not just going to be good this year. I don't care that they have a tough schedule. The other team should be worried that the Bucks are on their schedule. That should be their concern. I don't want to hear all this talk about, oh, the Bucks have a tough schedule. You got to be the best. You got to beat the best. Woo, as the great Ric Flair said, or the be the man. You got to beat the man. I'm not worried. I'm not. If they win those games or if they lose those games, so be it. So be it. I mean, then they didn't stack up and they weren't as good as we thought. But man, to think that they don't have a chance to go into those games and that they're going to lose all 4 of those games to the last 4 teams that were standing last year, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Don't tell me that the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Lions, and the 49ers are all going to beat the Buccaneers. It's not happening. They're getting at least 1, if not 2 of those games, maybe 3. Now, I'm not crazy. I don't think they'll win all 4 because those are some good football teams. But it's not always who you play, but when you play them. You don't know about health. What's the deal with San Francisco? You're telling me that Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey's not 100%. What's the deal with Brandon Ayuk? Depending on when you catch those guys, they could be ripe for the picking. So shout out to Jason Light and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've constructed their roster in the right way. No crazy long ass contracts, no malcontents, guys that aren't going to add, guys that are just going to be more about subtraction than addition. This is the right way to do it. Jason Light and company have corrected the wrongs of the past. They've made some mistakes, but who the hell hasn't? And just look at the way that this roster has been put together, and you have to tip your hat. You have to. They're doing a great job. And now it's up to the team. It's up to the coaches. It's up to the coaches to put these guys in position to succeed. It's up to the players to make the most of these opportunities that they're getting. I feel confident that Todd Bowles is a much better coach than he was a couple of years ago. He seems at ease. Second tenure as a head coach, it seems like he's learned from the error of his ways. And he's not perfect, but and of course we'll be keeping an eye on him this year like we do with every coach and every player. But there's an ease about this Buccaneers team, and it comes from a guy like Todd Bowles. And we spoke about it weeks ago, that video that the Buccaneers put out with him talking about the Super Bowl. This isn't a guy that's trying to do this for clicks or do this because he's trying to be, look at me. That's not Todd Bowles. He's doing that because he's trying to instill confidence in his team. And I think he's done a really good job of doing so. Liam Cohen, I've been on record saying this, and I'll say it again, the biggest acquisition that this team made in the offseason. bringing him in here. And if this offense, just imagine the Buccaneers really do have the potential to have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense. I don't think that's hyperbole. I don't. You have one of the best players on defense on the big defensive side of the ball in the league in Antoine Winfield Jr. You have a future Ring of Honor guy in Levante David. You have Yaya Diaby, one of the best young pass rushers in the game. You have the young pass rushers behind him, pushing him, and had a hell of a preseason. And then you look at the interior defensive line with Kalijah Cansey and Vita Vea. Good luck. Both those guys healthy to start the season. What are you going to do? Look at Vita Vea and what he did in that game on Friday night against the Dolphins. One series, he pushed the center 7 yards into the backfield. It was freaking embarrassing. Playmakers. They got ballers. They got dogs on both sides of the field. And if you're sleeping on the Buccaneers, again, do it at your own. uh, you're, it's just not going to work out well for you. Don't bet against the Buccaneers. That's all I got to say. We'll take a deep dive into some of the guys that got cut tomorrow. I know Matt Matera from Pewter Report is going to join us as well in the 2 o'clock hour. Todd Bowles, there's a press conference for him as well. Mañana, we'll play that for you on our show, Jay and Zach. But I wanted to talk some Randy Arozarena and Tampa Bay Rays here. It is the top of the seventh right now. The Mariners holding a 5-1 lead over the Rays. Josh Lowe with a home run in the second to get the Rays on the board. Jorge Polanco answered with a solo shot of his own in the second. And then Randy Arozarena, a 3-run ding-dong in the bottom of the third, make it 4-1. Rivas with the RBI single to make it 5-1. That's where we stand again in the top of the seventh inning. And if you didn't get an opportunity to see the interview with Randy Arozarena and the translator from Seattle and Trisha Whitaker on Bally, I suggest take 5 minutes out of your day, head on over to Bally, and Trisha retweeted it as well. She does such a phenomenal job. Um, just watch it as a Tampa Bay Rays fan. Just watch it, and it'll make you feel good, and it'll make you miss Randy. That's for sure. There's some great video highlights that accompanied the interview as well. But I'm thinking about the impact that Randy Arozarena had on the Tampa Bay Rays and the Tampa Bay community. Thinking about the impact that Randy Arozarena had and the way that he endeared himself to the fan base. And in my opinion, he's the most beloved player in Rays history. Now, I know some people will say Evan Longoria or Ben Zobrist or Carl Crawford or any of the great pitchers that they had. I'm not saying he's the best player in Rays history, but I think he's the most beloved. You look at what he was able to do in 2020, that Babe Ruthian type performance that he had. Just look at his numbers. Incredible. Look at him scoring that run on that Brett Phillips walk-off. I mean, him just crawling to home plate. That's one of the most iconic moments in baseball history. Forget about the Tampa Bay Rays. And then Randy Land and the way that he interacted with fans. We got 4 baseballs from Randy Arozarena in one game for Steph's kids. Those two little girls both walked out with 2 baseballs each, and they were grinning from ear to ear. You cannot duplicate that. You cannot put into words what that impact meant for those 2 little girls. There's no amount of money that can replace what they had that day. That memory will live with them forever. And when you think about it, one thing that really hurts the Rays and has the last couple of years when it comes to the familiarization with the players and the fan base is that they do have a lot of Latin ball players, and there's a good chunk of them that can only really communicate through a translator. So it is brief interactions with the fans. There's not a ton of in-depth conversations, and we don't hear from them as much. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. But one thing that Randy Arozarena was able to do was he was able to communicate with the fans non-verbally in a way that his impact will be felt through the organization of the Rays. It'll be felt through the history of the Rays franchise forever. Like, you're always going to remember the impact. You'll always remember the impact that Randy Arozarena had on this team and on this city. And I don't know if you'll ever see anything like that again. A Randy Land, like, who else is going to get that? And who else is going to embrace it as much as Randy Arozarena did? taking baseballs out with him to left field, tossing the balls into the crowd. He's chopping it up with fans in the on deck circle. Um, he is the most beloved player in Tampa Bay Rays history. His impact is not something that is ever going to be diminished. It's never going to be forgotten. I mean, it sucks that he's still doing it sucks that he's with the Seattle Mariners right now and he's hurting the Rays with a big 3-run home run, but that doesn't take away the impact that he's had here. It doesn't take away all the great memories, but it just stands out to me so much that even though he wasn't able to have, a ton of verbal communication with the fans because of that language barrier, um, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. He still had such a strong bond with the fan base, and a fan base that is heavily ridiculed, directly related to the attendance, usually at the home games at Tropicana Field. But you look at what Randy was able to do. I mean, he injected life into this franchise. He injected life into this fan base. He made it cool to be a Rays fan. And it wasn't just because like he was the best player or the greatest left fielder or he was an all-star, which he did make one all-star game with the Tampa Bay Rays. It was his personality. It was that smile. It was him. It was just Randy being Randy. And you just never knew what was going to happen. But you were glad as hell that he was a member of the Tampa Bay Rays. One of the most iconic players in Rays history, and a guy that even to this day, like just seeing him in the Mariners uniform, it's weird. It's still kind of funky. Ask your kids if they're Rays fans how much they miss Randy Arozarena. It's just not the same without him. And hopefully, guys like Junior Caminero and Carson Williams and Xavier Isaac, some of these other young players, can kind of, you know, make up for some of the production that was lost when Randy, left. And I know Randy wasn't having the greatest offensive year, but there's just something that he brought to the table. There's something intangible that he brought every single day he was at the park that made fans happy and joyful and proud to be Rays fans. And that's why he'll go down as one of the all-time greats and have one of the best postseason runs in Tampa Bay Rays history. I think, well, forget Rays history. He had one of the best postseason runs in baseball history. But it's that attitude, it's the connection that Randy Arozarena had with the Tampa Bay Rays fans. I don't think we'll ever see anything like that ever again. All right, let's talk a little WWE, a little Monday Night Raw recap. And when I say that, listen, when I say there's nobody that's going to have a connection like that with the fans, I'm not saying it like there's never going to be another fan favorite. But the reason why I say that is because Randy's a special dude. Randy is a special guy, and that connection that he has with the fans was so unique. I don't think we'll ever see anything quite like that ever again. All right, Monday Night Raw from Providence, Rhode Island tonight. And listen, it starts out Judgment Day, talking smack. Dominic Mysterio out there. The LWO comes out with his pops, Rey Mysterio. That turns into a match. And listen, some fantastic high flying stuff there. Joaquin Wild flying out. There was just really, really good stuff. You love to see the LWO come out with Rey Mysterio and Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wild. Um, that's the kind of stuff that you want to see to start off the night. You want to see some things. You want to get some excitement. You want to be able to really start oohing and on. I think you start the night off with some high flyers. That is the way to go. And every single time that you watch Dragon Lee do his thing, that guy's a special athlete. He really is. And you can see why WWE is so high on him. Just go check out the Joaquin Wild when they Cruz del Toro and Dragon Lee kind of springboard him off the rope on the outside. And that dude is flying through the air. An incredible job by the cameraman. Uh, as he crashes down on the Judgment Day below. The Judgment Day end up winning. They attack Mysterio at the end. Here comes Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. They come out. They do their thing as well. Big matchup. Bash in Berlin. It's going to be Damian Priest, Rhea Ripley against Dominic Mysterio and Liv Morgan. I got a question for Wednesday night. I'm going to save it until after that Recher reacts. But who is a better heel, Dominic Mysterio or MJF? Yeah, that's going to be a good topic of conversation. Next up, the Pure Fusion Collective, Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler against Control, Io Sky, and Kyrie Sane. I mentioned a couple weeks ago, we got to see continuation. We got to see more from this storyline because if not, it just kind of falls on deaf ears. And the one thing I took away from this tag team match tonight was the incredible offensive skills from Kyrie Sane. I mean, her and Io Shirai, they're so unique with what they can do. And she crushes Zoe Stark with the insane elbow to win it. At the same time, Io Sky does her moonsault on the outside of the ring. We see Zelina Vega come back and attack Sonya Deville. So Damage Control gets the win there. But you just keep that thing going. And I want to see Io Sky and Kyrie Sane continuously pushed as just complete badasses, whether it's in this storyline or not. They have to be positioned as just incredible athletes because they are so freaking talented. They're some of the best in the world. Next up, an in-ring segment with Drew McIntyre. He's mocking CM Punk. He sits in the ring, and then CM Punk's music plays. And I just wonder, out of all the music that has been played in the last 10 years, and I'm talking after, well, let's say 20 years, since Stone Cold Steve Austin, what song, as soon as you hear it, generates the most excitement? It's got to be CM Punk, right? Because you know what that song is. Cult of Personality, like it's become synonymous. And I think about all the other songs that you hear. Even though Roman Reigns is great, I think he gets such a phenomenal reaction. I still think it takes a little while to kind of, oh, okay, that's Roman. Or, oh, okay, that's Seth Rollins. Or, oh, okay, that's somebody else. Cody Rhodes, I guess, is another one that elicits a huge response. But CM Punk's is different. It really is because it's a throwback. It's been his song for a while. He took it with him from WWE to AEW, now back with WWE. I just think that is the one song that elicits the best response in wrestling. I think it's the number one since Stone Cold, where as soon as that glass breaks, you knew an ass kicking was on its way. CM Punk whipping Drew McIntyre with the strap. He's even beating up the security guards, which I think people really didn't know how to take. Like, wait, what's going on here? He was smacking the hell out of those guys. Drew McIntyre tucks his tail. He runs away. Strap match. We saw that one coming. Bash in Berlin. That's going to be a fun one. And then they get right into the first of two Intercontinental Championship tournament matches, a three-way between Kofi Kingston, Jey Uso, and Karrion Kross. Yeah, I love Kofi. I mean, he's been around for a while, but I think some of his moves, like he's doing cross bodies and he's doing these clotheslines that aren't really a clothesline. He hits these guys from these weird angles. And for a guy that's been around for so long and you respect the hell of, you respect the hell out of what he's done in this industry, people, even he did the double boom drop today and he just, the response, it's all about the crowd response. It's all about, what you're making the fans feel. And fans are just dead. And he has to like get him into he's trying to, clap and try to get him in there. And I think Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, they just need a complete like overhaul. And I get it. They're teasing the breakup. They spoke earlier on in the night where, yeah, we always talk it out and things like that. But it's just something's got to give. These two guys are super talented. They've done so much for the industry. Part of the one of the best tag teams of all time, but we need something. They need a fresh coat of paint because it's the same old, same old. Kingston and Karrion Kross, they end up losing. Jey Uso hits Kross with the spear, hits him with the Uso splash. Jey Uso advances to the four-way that's going to be in 2 weeks to determine the number one contender for Braun Breaker's Intercontinental Championship. Randy Orton comes out for a promo. We find out that Gunther is actually already in Europe doing some stuff over there. Saw that he was doing a match with Ilya Dragunov. You remember their huge rivalry that they had in NXT UK. You want to see a hard-hitting affair, go on Peacock, search WWE, and put in Gunther, or it's probably Walter at that time, and Ilya Dragunov. Those guys beat the absolute crap out of each other. You have to check that out. So yeah, Orton, solid promo, talking about all the different things that he's gone through, and he's going into enemy territory. He called Gunther a legend over there. I think that may have been a little bit of a stretch, but I just think Randy's just so solid. He's such a pro. He can do a little bit of everything. And, he's a babyface big time. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's only, a short while. Because once this happens, and there's no way Gunther's going to lose to Randy Orton in that match, Randy Orton's probably going to go back to SmackDown, and he's going to have to start with Cody Rhodes. And I think they start that trek to whether it's Survivor Series or Royal Rumble. It's just a matter of time before he turns on Cody and the Legend Killer is back to being a heel, the Viper, the Apex Predator. And then next up, my favorite match of the night: Braun Strowman, Bronson Reed, and you never know what you're going to get when you have two big guys in the ring because they're both used to being the the big guy, right? And the the opposition is usually fighting from underneath. You have to sell the smaller guy. These are two big ass dudes, and right off the rip, Braun Strowman lands a drop kick, and every single time he throws a drop kick and he smokes somebody with it, it's awesome. These guys did such an awesome job tonight, so great. Bronson Reed goes through the ropes, diving through the ropes onto Strowman on the floor. They go to break. And then and you wanted to see this match not end like I didn't want to see anybody like pin somebody. This had to like further the storyline. You're thinking going into this match, right? What are you going to get? You gotta, you can't see him, and by him I say Bronson Reed. You can't see him pinning Braun Strowman clean. You know you're not going to have Braun Strowman pin Bronson Reed clean because then you wash away all the good that you've done the last couple of weeks of making him look like this big bad monster heel. So there's got to be some kind of wonky ass finish, but no finish is probably the best way to go, and that's exactly what we got. We got a no contest. So Reed and Strowman, they're going back and forth. Reed says he's done. He's going backstage. He's waiting on the other side. He goes through Gorilla. He's standing there with the trash can. Strowman comes through the curtain. Reed throws the trash can at him. They go outside. Strowman choke slams Reed on the hood of a car. And then all of a sudden, here comes Bronson Reed with a pipe. He's beating the crap out of Strowman with it. Strowman's draped across the hood of the car. Here comes Bronson Reed. He goes up on this ledge, walks over, and freaking flattens Braun Strowman with the tsunami right on top of the car. And the the oh, that was insane. The glass shatters, all the windows shatter. I phenomenal. Phenomenal. That was an old school wrestling angle. You made Bronson Reed look even better. I still think in a way you protect Braun Strowman, so he's going to be able to come back. I think you continue the storyline with these two big dudes, but holy smokes, to see Bronson Reed that high up and to come off the top rope and splash Braun Strowman like that on top of the car. Oh my God. That was crazy. It was freaking crazy. Shout out to my guy Shooter. Hope you're well, man. Hope you scored a goal in your last game. Lightning will be here before you know it, and then we'll be talking some Lightning hockey as well right here on Recher Reacts. You see right behind me, right there, the 30th anniversary. I'm not saying pointing down, left. There we go. Lightning 30th anniversary. I got some Lightning stuff here as well. Lightning puck behind me. Shout out to Jobu back here. I got to give Jobu back to my guy Frankie, and always supporting the United and the Rowdies and everybody here in the Tampa Bay area, including my guy Shooter, doing always great stuff. Be the Thunder, as always. Go check them out. And then moving on with the Monday Night Raw stuff. I absolutely loved what we saw there from Bronson Reed. Where does he go from here? Hopefully, those guys. I would love to see both those guys at Bash in Berlin. Just have them like go out into the ring, just beat the shit out of each other for 5 minutes, and then walk out like that. That's fine. Next up, the second Intercontinental Championship tournament match, three-way between The Miz, Xavier Woods, and Pete Dunne. This match, whoever was the agent in this match, did such a great job of putting together all of the little intricate things that needed to be done in this match. Double pins from The Miz and Xavier Woods. You saw a little bit of an homage from Xavier Woods to Cesaro, aka Claudio Castagnoli, did the swinging Pete Dunne around. You saw the it kicks from The Miz, You know, you wonder if that's a little bit of an homage to Daniel Bryan, who just won the AEW championship on Sunday, but a really, really um, smartly crafted match. And we knew that Pete Dunne was going to come away with the victory. That's exactly what we got. And just notice this too: Xavier Woods wearing all black. And I just wonder if that's another thing to tease the turn that's coming up. Because I think he's the guy that's going to turn on Kofi Kingston. But he's wearing all black. We know that New Day is a group that loves to wear big time, colorful things. I also found it a little weird that we didn't see Odyssey Jones at all this week, but it's just a matter of time. And listen, if it has to be Xavier Woods versus Kofi Kingston, I think that could bring the best out of both of those guys. And it's very similar to when Kofi Kingston, and we know he came out originally, even though he's from Ghana, he was Jamaican. Um, but then after a while, he gets into that program with Randy Orton. And if you remember, I think it was at Madison Square Garden. I could be wrong. They were in the crowd, and he jumps off of this big thing and lands right on Randy Orton. And that was kind of he planted his flag into the ground, like, "Hey, I'm not just going to be this ha 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 jokey dude. Like I'm out here to kick some ass too." We need to get back to that with Kofi. The New Day stuff was great, but I think it's run its course. He's got to go out there. He's got to get back to being an ass kicker, and you know, let fans know. Let fans know, hey, I can kick some ass. I'm a badass. Because right now it's just all goofy, haha bullshit, and I think people are over it. And then the last match of the night, and I'm trying not to be overly critical, but Uncle Howdy defeats Chad Gable, Sister Abigail for the win. And I really want the Wyatt Six to work out. I really do. I really want this to really live on and to continue to build and build and build. But I don't like where it's going. I don't like the direction. I don't like that we've already seen Uncle Howdy in the ring. I thought he should have been protected. We should have kept him out of the ring. Everything should be spooky and mysterious and freak you out. But instead, we're getting a creepy video package in the beginning of the show. And then at the end, we're getting Uncle Howdy and Chad Gable. And Chad Gable puts him in an ankle lock. And Uncle Howdy, has to go over and use the rope to break the hold. Like, if you're Uncle Howdy and you're this weird, mysterious being, you shouldn't be using the rope to break a hold. Like, you should be laughing at the ankle lock. I'd rather you no sell a bunch of these moves than to come off looking as weak as he did tonight. Pat Donovan, my buddy over on WDAE, said something. Uncle Howdy looks weird because he's got no tattoos on his arms. And then I could not stop staring at that tonight. You know how tatted up Bray Wyatt was. He's got a badass glove, Uncle Howdy. But if he doesn't have, and he has just a bunch of exposed skin, and he's not the most like muscular guy, nor the biggest guy in the world. So he didn't have kind of just that natural girth that Bray Wyatt did, nor does he have like this physique, ripped looking, his arms aren't bulging out of his shirt. It's a weird look. I hope they put some sleeves on him, colorful sleeves. Um, but yeah, just too much tonight. Move off the top rope. Like, there were some incredible athletic maneuvers done by Chad Gable tonight, but I think you just make Uncle Howdy look like another wrestler. And the commentating team just keep referring to him as Bo Dallas. Like, that doesn't help, because you know what fans think when they think Bo Dallas? They think of the guy that was with Curtis Axel in the tag team with The Miz. You think about Bo Leave, and you think about NXT. I don't want to think about that when I'm looking at Uncle Howdy. They need to fix this direction, because yeah, and you kind of knew what was going to happen at the end. Gaga at the end, the Cree brothers come out. There's a referee bump. Here comes Dexter Loomis. Here comes Gacy. Here comes Eric Rowan. Yeah, that was some good stuff. Don't get me wrong. I would have loved to see Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman end the night. That should have ended the night for me. But I just don't like the way that they're portraying Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six. I need more mystique. I need some more intrigue. I need more just, I want this to feel like my skin's crawling. But instead, it's almost like it's again, you're like, oh, that's cool. But it seems like it's wearing on everybody. When those lights first, when Bray Wyatt first debuted as The Fiend, okay? and he hit Sister Abigail on Finn Balor in the middle of the ring. That was creepy as hell. The way that the lights went on, the mask, you were freaked the F out. Go back to the first time that we saw the Wyatt Six. They beat the living crap out of everybody backstage. Chad Gable was laying there like he got a freaking shot, a freaking bullet to the head. And now you're out there and he's rope breaking on ankle locks and getting slammed on tables. I don't know. They're losing me. They're losing me. I want this to work, and I'm not hating by any means because I want it to succeed. But you can't tell me that the same feeling that you had when the Wyatt Six debuted, obliterating everybody backstage and being this menacing, mysterious force, you can't tell me that you have the same feeling then as you do tonight. Because now it's just like, they're like the oddities from the 90s. You're like, oh, that's cool. That's all right. Great masks. But where do they go from here? I hope they figure it out because they have the potential to really do some great things with these guys and be completely different than everything else on WWE program. But unfortunately, I feel like we're kind of going back to the same thing that we saw with Bray Wyatt and The Fiend, where you're humanizing more and more of the character, and eventually you're just going to hit a standstill, and there's going to be a lack of progression in the storyline, and people are just going to be like, all right, we're good. Let me see the next thing you got. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. 41 minutes tonight. I thought we were only going to go for a couple, but Monday Night Raw, great impact, great recap. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms. Follow my guy Shooter as well. Be the Thunder, their podcast, crush it for the Tampa Bay Lightning hockey season right around the corner. Follow me at Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. Hit me up on LinkedIn, everything. And like everything here we got on YouTube, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Every single time we go live, you'll know what we got going on. We will definitely have another show tomorrow night as well, talking some more Buccaneers, some Rays. You never know, because if something is happening in the sports world, we'll definitely going to address it right here on Retro Reacts. Before I go, again, a shout out to Psycho Sid, who unfortunately passed away today. One of the scariest men. You want to talk about a guy that made you go, oh God, what the hell is he going to do? And he was so unique on the microphone because he didn't always make sense. He kind of rambled sometimes, but you always knew he could back it up. And when he was able to win, not win, but when he was able to help Ric Flair win the championship in the Royal Rumble, that was one of my that was one of my favorite moments ever. If you look back at that Royal Rumble, Hulk Hogan gets eliminated, and Hogan's there, and you see Sid reaching his hand out, and he's just like moving his head around. Oh my God, that and the one promo in WCW where he was making no sense. Just a badass man, a badass. Loved his softball too. But thoughts and prayers go out to his family. Sorely missed, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes into the WWE Hall of Fame next year. All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. Love you guys. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you listen to WDA starting at 6 a.m. tomorrow. Jacobson show. Aaron Jacobson, Jake Jacobson. That should be fun. I will be on with my guy Zach Blobner starting at noon. We've got Matt Matera joining us. We've got Denard Span joining us in the studio, playing a little show and tell. We'll be on from noon to 3. And I will actually be giving away race tickets. Where? At your local Lowe's tomorrow from 7 to 9 o'clock at the Lowe's over there on Waters. I'll be dropping off tickets randomly throughout the randomly throughout the store. I don't usually do stuff like this, but it's right around the block, so I'll be there bright and early. So if you want some race tickets, head on over to the Lowe's on Waters, and yeah, let's have some fun. If you need anything, hit me up on social media. Appreciate all the love. We'll see you tomorrow night right here on Retro Reacts. Peace out.